Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. I am back today with a wrap up for October 2019. I read 25 books, 19 were full-length books, 4 were novellas, and then I listened to 2 audiobooks last month. I'm wondering, do you guys count novellas for like your Goodreads challenge or your wrap-ups or whatever? Do you count them as one book? I do. I count them. I read enough novellas that they add up after a while. Boo is here with me today, although he probably wants to go on his walk. Yeah, babe? I have a lot of books to talk about in this video, so let's just get started. The first book that I read last month was War of Hearts by Samantha Young. This is one of her paranormal romances. She actually has written some non-contemporary stuff like prior to On Dublin Street. I have not read them before, so this was my first paranormal romance from her, which I was really excited about because I do love a couple of her books and I was really excited to see how she would write a paranormal romance, and I liked this one. It was a 3.5 star. I kind of expected a little too much from it, so that's why it's not, you know, a 5-star read for me. The potential and premise of it is there, and I am excited to see more of this world from Samantha Young, but for this book, the romance was kind of iffy for me. The heroine, Thea, is on the run from her abuser. She's been on the run for years, and then the hero is the guy who her abuser hires to find her and deliver her back. He doesn't know that he's her abuser though, so that's why he doesn't really have any hesitation to find her. Connell, the hero, thinks that Thea is some crazy murderer, so that's why he wants her off the streets. Connell is the alpha of the Scotland werewolf pack. Thea is this mysterious, indestructible, paranormal creature. We find out later what she is, although I kind of predicted what she was. I was really enjoying the first half of the book. It is a very slow burn in the first half. Obviously, these two aren't about to fall in love with each other right away, and Connell is slowly realizing that Thea is not who he thinks she is. But then something happens, mainly like a one bed, one hotel kind of thing, and all of a sudden it becomes a fated mates kind of romance. Like, they realize that they're meant to be together, and I was kind of feeling some whiplash from that. I was really enjoying the slow burn in the first half of the book, right? And then all of a sudden they're all meant to be together. So that was the main reason why I couldn't love this one as much as I wanted to. I mean, the world building is great, the action is fantastic, lots of good fighting scenes. Thea and Connell are total badasses. I love them so much. But it was just the romance that was not to my taste. Like I said before, I do love the world that Samantha Young has created, so we're getting another book in the series. They're all going to be standalones, different couples, and I can't wait for it. The next book that I read was The Play by Elle Kennedy, of course. It is gorgeous. This one is actually the matte cover. It's originally supposed to be a glossy cover like the rest of the series, and I don't like that it doesn't match, but at the same time I love matte covers more than glossy covers, so I'm still keeping this, obviously. This is book 3 in the Briar You series and my new favorite of the series, new adult college sports romance. So if you love any of those, definitely read the series if you haven't already. This book is about Hunter, who we met in the first 2 books, and in the last book, The Risk, he was a guy who was kind of screwed over by the main couple in that book. He got all butthurt in that book and then went on to be this big old man whore. But after a mistake that loses their hockey championship, he decides to become celibate, which I was a fan of. And then our heroine, Demi, she is a new character and she actually has a boyfriend for like a good half of the book. So Demi and Hunter become really good friends. They are partnered together in their psychology class. I love the friendship that develops between them. It's really genuine and hilarious. These two have a really fun time together. But of course, when she breaks up with her boyfriend, she wants Hunter and she's about to seduce him out of his celibacy. I just love these two together. I thought they were so much fun. My new favorite couple of the series. I also loved seeing the original off-campus boys couples in this book too. That was great. Right now I really want book 4 which I'm hoping is gonna be a thing. There's been no announcement yet, but I'm crossing my fingers that it's gonna be about Connor, who is one of the other members in Hunter's hockey team. Now, he was the biggest man whore in this book. He's like a pretty boy and all the girls flock to him. I'm not like the biggest fan of man whores, but at the same time, I love seeing them getting knocked off their feet by one woman. And Elle Kennedy does that so well, so I can't wait, and hopefully we get his book. This next book is one of my most anticipated reads of 2020, and I think it's my very first 2020 read. It is Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This is the standalone sequel to Fix Her Up, which I adored this year. This one is a second chance romance between a married couple. Rosie and Dominic's marriage was kind of on the rocks throughout Fix Her Up, and I just could not wait to see how they would get back together. Obviously, second chance romance is my all-time favorite trope, and Tessa Bailey does it really, really well. She's done one other second chance romance. It was her Made in Jersey series, and I really enjoyed that one, mainly because both characters were both celibate during their separation, which I appreciate so much. But for Rosie and Dominic, ever since Dominic came back from war, he kind of shut down on Rosie, and they don't really communicate anymore. They just have their like once a week sex fest. So Rosie is like, okay, I'm done. I can't keep going through this anymore, and she wants a divorce. Dominic obviously does not. So they go to couples therapy and they discover something that is called the 5 love languages. I just love Rosie and Dominic so much. We get a gruff and quiet but alpha hero in Dominic. His mouth is as dirty as they come, as always, and as expected from Tessa Bailey. Rosie is an awesome heroine. I love that she took charge of herself, of her life, and her marriage, and went after what she wanted. There is a ton of groveling, which I was so excited about. Tessa Bailey knows how to give some good grovel. I love this one even more than Fix Her Up, gave it 5 stars. It was just fantastic. If you're excited for this one because you loved Fix Her Up, get ready for it because it will not disappoint. Next, I read Faker by Sarah Smith. I am really, really sad that I didn't love this one as much as I wanted to. It gave off the hating game vibes with the whole office romance and enemies to lovers. I mean, I didn't expect it to be another hating game, but I wanted to read it because it reminded me of that book. Unfortunately, this one fell really short for me. I did not really buy the romance in this one. I got super annoyed with the hero, who kind of treats the heroine like crap. For no reason besides that he really likes her. That always annoys me so much. Emmy and Tate are co-workers, and he just makes her life a little bit harder because he has a big old crush on her, which is obvious to us as a reader, but she of course can't tell because he treats her poorly. I just expected a lot more from this one. I mean, the writing is fine, it's great. I would definitely read something else by Sarah Smith, but for this book, I just didn't like the characters, so I couldn't enjoy the story more. I gave it 2 stars. It was really disappointing. I think she does have another book coming out with Berkeley next year, and I am looking forward to it, but this one, I just didn't love it. These next 2 novellas are a duet, Hollow and Holden. This duet is based off the legend of the Headless Horseman, so it is a paranormal romance, and it is dark too. It's like borderline erotic psychological thriller plus romance. This one was a very strange read. I read it because a friend recommended it to me, and I mean, I was intrigued by it. I wanted to see how, you know, a freaking headless horseman would end up falling in love. This one is a little bit too much for me to handle. Like, there's rape and torture and all that insane stuff. But if you do like dark romances, this one might be for you, and it is very Halloween-y, so if you like horror stuff, definitely check it out. You do get an obsessed alpha hero in that Headless Horseman, so I appreciated that, but otherwise both of these were like 2-3 stars. Next, I read Down Too Deep by J. Daniels. I talked a lot about this one in my single parent recommendations video, so check that out if you haven't already. I'll leave a link to it down below. In this one, we get 2 single parents, both the main characters. The heroine has 2 kids. twins, a boy and a girl. And then the hero has one daughter. She's fairly young and he recently just lost his wife, so he's kind of been out of it, not really been there for his daughter. But after like a slap in the face from his parents, he's ready to be the dad that he should have been. So Nate, the hero, hires Jenna, the heroine, to help take care of his daughter while he's off at work. He's trying to transition out of his restaurant that he owns so that he can have more time to spend with his daughter. It's just a really sweet romance, although I did at some parts want to smack Nate for how clueless he is, but other than that, it's a really great romance. The kids are freaking adorable. I love them so much, and I very much appreciate that Nate is a hero who wears glasses. I don't read that too often, but here's some glasses look fine. So props to J. Daniels for that. This whole series is fantastic. I love all 4 books. This is the 4th. You don't have to read the other books in the series, although Nate does have a role in all of them because he is the owner of the restaurant that all the other characters work at, but it is still a standalone. Next, I read Dreams of 18 by Saffron A. Kent. This was my first book from this author. I've been wanting to read her books for a long time, and then of course this book is a forbidden romance, an age gap romance, and falling for like your best friend's dad, so obviously I had to read it. Unfortunately, I didn't really love it all that much. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's insta-love, which I don't mind. I do love insta-love every once in a while, but this one just didn't have enough foundation to back up that insta-love. On the heroine's 18th birthday, she ends up kissing Graham, the hero, who is her guy best friend's dad, and ends up basically ruining his life and his career, and he had to move away from their town. A couple months later, Violet shows up on his doorstep, determined to make things up for him. I really like this premise, but once sex got involved, it kind of went downhill for me just because there's so much of it, so much sex happening, and I just wanted something outside of it. Like, it's hot and dirty, although there's this weird lollipop scene, but besides that, I didn't really get much of a romance development. Graham is a big old jerk to Violet, and he's a jerk for a really long time, so it took a while for me to even warm up to him. I really wish I could have loved this one more because I love forbidden romance, but this one just didn't work quite as well as I had hoped it would. I honestly haven't read that many like best friend, boyfriend's dad kind of romances. The other best friend's dad romance that I read by Shanora Williams, I did not like at all. So this one didn't work out either. So I don't know, maybe this trope isn't for me, although I do love Birthday Girl. But that one is a boyfriend's dad and not best friend's dad, so maybe that's the difference. Okay, I need to turn on the light because it is getting so dark so fast, especially with daylight savings. My next read was an audiobook. I listened to Follow Me Back by A.L. Jackson. I gave it 3 stars. For some reason, I can never really get into her books that much. Like, I listened to most of them in audio, but then I forget all about them. They're just not that memorable to me. This one is a single parent romance, and the hero is a doctor. The heroine's son's doctor. He previously lost the love of his life, so he's never wanting to fall in love again. Hope and Kale have a sex-only, no strings attached kind of relationship, but obviously after a while they start falling for each other. Both of these characters, especially the heroine, has things from their past that are haunting them. This was an okay romance. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. I do love the narrators though. Andy Arndt is one of my favorite female narrators, and I love Joe Arden so much. I'm definitely the kind of audiobook listener who will listen to an audiobook for a specific narrator, like I've done for Joe Arden. I mean, they still have to be romances obviously, but I do love clicking on their names whenever I go on Audible or whatever to see what other audiobooks they've done in the past. Joe Arden's voice is just so fine. I own a ton of audiobooks by him as well as Andy Arndt. So they did a really great job of narrating this, but the story itself just fell really flat for me. My next 4 books were ones that I read for one of my past videos where I read books that were in sponsored posts that were promoted to me on social media like Facebook and Instagram. So I read Dr. Dan by Kay Webster, which is an age gap and forbidden romance. Hate the Game by Winter Renshaw, which is a college sports new adult romance. These Monstrous Ties, which is a dark new adult romance. And Double Exposition by Jerica McMillan, which is a music related college new adult romance. If you haven't watched that video or talk about all these books, go check it out. I'll leave a link to it down below. But I didn't hate any of these. I was surprised. I was not expecting to really enjoy any of these. I mean, I was hoping to. If you like new adult romances, I would recommend Hate the Game and Double Exposition. Dr. Dan was kind of to me. I didn't really see it as anything special. And These Monstrous Ties was kind of iffy for me. Honestly, I was just mostly confused reading that book. But for reading some random books that I found on my social media, they were not half bad. My next book is a novella called Priceless by Ella Good. Ella Good is kind of hit or miss for me. I prefer her older books to her newer books. Her newer ones haven't really been doing it for me, but I do enjoy her. When I read her, I get exactly what I want, which is a really quick novella, insta-love, alpha hero, some sexy times. This one gave me all of that, but I didn't like it all that much, sadly. I didn't really care for the characters that much. The heroine is like a artisan jewelry maker, and then the hero wants to buy something of hers, but she has this really exclusive client list. He wants something for his mom, but he gets rejected, and of course, being the rich alpha hero that he is, he wants to get his way. But as soon as he sees a heroine, he falls in love, of course, as expected from Ella Good. But other than that, the rest of the story was kind of boring to me. I love reading these kinds of novellas, even though most of them don't work out for me, but they're short, quick, and hot, and it's kind of like a palette cleanser to me. One of my favorite smutty novella authors is Jessica Cain. If you haven't read her, you definitely should if you like these kinds of reads. But sadly for Ella Good, I just haven't been loving her recent ones. My next book is Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. I am a little bit devastated to say that I also did not like this one. I didn't like the Unhoneymooners, and this one didn't work for me either. It really does kind of seem like Christina Lauren is transitioning towards women's fiction. This one was very little in the romance department, which I was really sad about because it's a freaking second chance romance and they knocked it out of the park with Love in Other Words. It's one of my favorites from them, but this one was kind of a fail. I mean, I love the writing because Christina Lauren knows how to write, but the story and the characters were just not working for me. Sam and Tate met each other about 14 years ago in London. They were really young and fell head over heels for each other in about a week. Unfortunately, Sam screws Tate over and throws her life into the limelight since her dad is one of the most famous Hollywood actors in the world. Tate goes on to have a very successful acting career. Her latest movie throws her back to Sam, who is the screenwriter. This is where things kind of fall apart to me. I loved the movie production aspect of this. I thought it was really fascinating and really well done, but the romance was not there because Sam didn't really do anything to prove that he still loved her or wanted her back. I expected a ton of groveling or at least some way to make up for the hurt, how he screwed Tate over like a decade ago, but he didn't do anything. Tate kind of just let him back into her life like it was no big deal. So I was disappointed with that. There's a plot point between Tate and her famous dad, but I didn't really care for it just because I didn't like the dad. He was so clueless and oblivious. Clearly a very selfish kind of person, so I didn't really like anybody in this book. I gave it 3 stars. Probably could go even lower, the more I think about it. I'm just really disappointed that I haven't been loving Christina Lauren's latest books. They wrote the Beautiful Bastard series, Wild Season series, and I love those books so hard. So it's just beyond disappointing that they are moving in a direction that I don't particularly like. I will keep on hoping that their next release will be back to a regular old romance. This one definitely felt more like women's fiction, or at least some weird in between of women's fiction and romance that just didn't work out. But the Honey Don't List does sound good, and I'm just crossing my fingers that I will love that one. Next, I read Moonlighter by Serena Bowen. I am pretty sad about the cover change because I'm not a big fan of the new one. I really love the old one, so maybe if she releases that one in paperback, I'll get it, but this one is kind of to me. But the book itself was really great. I loved it. I was really taken surprised by it, by how much it was leaning towards romantic suspense. The heroine is Alex, who we met in Brooklyn Air, one of my favorite books from Serena Bowen. She's the one who got pregnant in that book, so she has to deal with her pregnancy in this book. The hero, Eric, is a childhood friend who she hasn't talked to in years. Eric is a professional hockey player playing for the Brooklyn Bruisers, and he is roped in by his family, who owns a security company, to be Alex's new bodyguard when she goes off to Hawaii for a conference. I really love these two. The romance is fun, light, and fluffy. So the romance part was great, but I was really surprised by how much I loved the whole like industry espionage thing. Someone is out to destroy Alex and her tech company. And they do a lot of sleuthing to figure out who it is. So I really enjoyed that aspect too. I fell in love with Eric's brother, who is the co-owner of that security company. His name is Max, and I am praying that we get a book for him. He had a little something going on with one of his employees, who is a total badass. Moonlighter is the first book in a new series, so hopefully we do get Max's book. If you love Serena Bowen, if you love the Brooklyn and Brooklyn Bruisers series, which is all about hockey, you definitely should be reading this one. It's fun, it's charming, with a bit of action going on, so it's just a really well-rounded read, and I had a fun time reading it. Next, I finally read Sinful Like Us by Kristen Becca Ritchie. This is book 5 in the Like Us series. The series is one where you can't really read each as a standalone. The first 3 books are about an MM couple, and then the next 2 books are about this couple, Jane and Thatcher. I love Jane and Thatcher so much, but this book kind of felt a little bit too filler for me. Like, not much happens in terms of the romance development until the very end, and then a whole bunch of other stuff that has to do with Jane's family, and then Mafia and Pharaoh happens, which was a little bit annoying because I wanted more Jane and Thatcher. If you haven't read Tangled Like Us, which is their first book, Jane is the daughter of a really famous family, and Thatcher is her new bodyguard. So they have to deal with their relationship being out in the open towards their families and towards the public. I really wanted to love this one more, but it's probably my least favorite of this series. I definitely prefer Tangled Like Us more than Sinful Like Us, but I did adore the ending. I'm really happy with where Jane and Thatcher ended in this book, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the series. I know a lot of people have opinions about the rest of the series, especially the last book, but I honestly wasn't that upset about it. I'll read it before I say anything about it, but I am curious to know if we're getting books for the other kobolds. Jane is the oldest, and obviously we get her book, but we have 7 other kids who we get to know throughout the series. And I kind of want those books. Sinful Like Us was just sadly not my favorite. I love Kristen Becca Ritchie so much. They write the best new adult romances ever. Addicted series and the Calloway Sisters series is one of the best, but sadly this one just wasn't my favorite. My next read is Tiebreaker by P. D'Angelico. I first read this author last month with You Can Have Manhattan, which I loved. Such a fantastic groveling romance, and this one is also another groveling romance, lots of angst. This one is a second chance romance, which is why I gravitated towards it. The heroine is a professional tennis player, and when her grandfather dies, she is forced to return to her hometown and reunite with the former love of her life, who tore and broke her heart about 10 years ago. This one is book 2 in a series, in the It Takes Two series, but I didn't even realize it was part of a series when I went into it. I haven't read the first book, I just went into this one as a standalone, which was perfect. I really enjoyed this one. The heroine is basically completely done with the hero, and the hero is not. He wants her back, of course, and she definitely makes him work for it. Lots of good angst and groveling in this one, as well as some humor too. The main characters have some really great banter together. I'm just really happy that I finally read P. D'Angelico, and I've been loving her books. Her angsty kind of reads are exactly my type. Her next book, Nothing But Wild, sounds so good. It's a sports romance, but her backlist is definitely one that I want to make my way through eventually. Next, I read Half Truths by Claire Contreras. This one is a hardcover, which is gorgeous. This is a romantic suspense and a mystery, which was perfect for the Halloween season. It's a sports romance with an athlete hero, and it's all about secret societies and cults. Amelia transfers to a new university. Unfortunately, it's a new university where a girl that she knew, or was like a friend of her brother's, disappeared and has still not been found. Heroine Amelia gets enmeshed in this secret society that the hero Logan is a part of, and it's a secret society that may or may not have caused the disappearance of that girl, as well as several girls throughout the years. So being a journalist, Amelia is determined to find out the truth and to find out where that girl is. It's suspenseful, it kept me on the edge of my seat and kept me guessing. I really enjoyed this one. The romance is pretty slow burn. I do wish there's a little bit more of it, but I enjoyed this one. It's the first in a new series called Secret Society, so obviously we can look forward to that. I honestly don't know who it could be about, but I am looking forward to it. These next two were for the Ravished by Romance book club read for last month, which was Raphael by Tilly Cole. I read the novella called The Fallen, Genesis. Prior to that, you honestly don't need to. If you want to go into Raphael as a standalone, it's fine, but it just provides a really good background to all the main characters. It is a dark contemporary novella, not a romance at all. We're introduced to Gabriel and the other fallen angels. This is a contemporary romance. They just use the fallen angel names for these characters. It is not an easy read at all. There's abuse, there's rape, there's torture, there's just all these horrific stuff happening to these boys. I was a little bit like, reading this, but the story itself is really fascinating, and it provides a really good context for the first book, which is Raphael. That one was our official read for our book club. If you missed the live chat, I'll leave a link to it down below, but I did enjoy that one. It was super weird and just like fascinating, but it was still a good read. Like, I'm invested in these characters now, and I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the books in the series. The heroes, who are called the Fallen, they are all quite messed up. They are very much dark anti-heroes who want to kill. Each of them has their own specific taste in terms of how they want to kill, and for Raphael, he likes to strangle people, especially while he's having sex. Luckily, these guys kill only really bad guys, so they're not just like mindless murderers. I really love the premise of the series that Tilly Cole kind of talks about before the start of the story in Raphael, which is that each of the heroes in the series represents one of the deadly sins. So Raphael represents lust, and all the heroines are supposed to be the opposite of that deadly sin. So the heroine Maria in this one is chastity. She is a nun in training. She's not officially one, but she wants to be. So Raphael and Maria are obviously very different and very opposite. It was definitely the kind of read where where I couldn't look away from it or I couldn't put it down. This next book is my favorite read from last month, which is The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan. I love this book so freaking much. Like, I read it and I literally couldn't put it down. It's the first book in a duet. Luckily, the second book is only 3 weeks after the release of the first book. So like now it's only 2 weeks away. I cannot wait for it. The main characters first met when they were really young. The heroine is 17. The hero was about 22. Nothing happened then because she is underage, but they first met at a protest. The heroine, who is part Native American, was protesting against a pipeline being built in her ancestors' land. Lennox and Maxim first meet at that protest. Lennox does not know that Maxim is actually the son of the CEO of that company who is wanting to build that pipeline, but they find a connection with each other that's really special, but nothing happens until they meet again a couple years later. In Amsterdam. They are both there coincidentally for a week before they move out to like the opposite sides of the earth. It's a really sweet and charming whirlwind romance. I felt so hard for these two and for their romance. These characters are really special. I just love their dreams and ambitions. They just felt so real to me. Lennox wants to be the kind of person who can uplift minorities, be the voice for minorities, while Maxim wants to pretty much save the earth and make money doing so. He wants to make things more eco-friendly and sustainable. I just really loved and appreciated the way Kennedy Ryan was able to combine the romance and the politics and the social issues that are going on both in the book and in the real world together. She did an incredible job of that. I just love this book so much. It's fantastic. Definitely one of my new favorites of the year. It does end on a cliffhanger though. I am dying for the next book. The Kingmaker is actually gonna be our November read for Ravished by Romance. We just announced the date and time over on our Instagram, so make sure to follow the Ravished by Romance Instagram if you don't already. Super excited to do that chat. My next book was one that I read for my last video, which was a movie reaction video to Forever My Girl by Heidi McLaughlin. I unfortunately hated this book. It is a second chance romance, but it is so poorly done. I hated the hero, didn't really like the heroine. The only good part of it was their son and the relationship that develops between that son and the hero Liam. I just hated Liam's excuse for leaving and dumping the heroine. It was really lame, and then he goes on to become this really famous musician. I hated this book. Liam did nothing really to make up for the hurt that he caused. The heroine took him back a little bit too easily, so that was a fail. I did like the movie a little bit more though, just because the book was that bad. So you can go watch my movie reaction video if you haven't already. It was quite a trip. Just know that there are quite a number of cringy moments. This next one was my most anticipated read for November. It is Beard Necessities by Penny Reid, the last book in the Winston Brothers series, which I adore. I am a little sad that I didn't love it 100%. Like, I gave it 4 stars, which is, you know, nothing to scoff about. It's still a really great read, but I was kind of disappointed with the beginning of the book, which is a little slow and kind of frustrating. The main characters are just so in their heads and not really moving forward with the romance. Billy and Claire first met and fell in love about 18 years ago. And now is their second chance. They're pretty much forced to be together in Italy because their family, the Winstons, are creating these scenarios where they're forced to be together. I really love that. I love all the shenanigans that the Winstons come up with. Once Billy and Claire do get their head out of their asses though, I was loving this one. Their love story and romance is just so sweet and beautiful. I have been waiting for this book for the longest time, and when they finally got back together, it was just so perfect, and I loved the epilogue in this one. It is the perfect ending for the Winston Brothers series. Like, everyone is with their families and their loves, and they're just so happy together. It is so sweet. I am so sad that It's officially over now for the Winston Brothers series. It's been like 4 years since the first book came out. I just love them all so much, but I am very, very glad that it's not like officially the ending, because we do get a series for Cletus and Jennifer. Not exactly sure when, but it's like a cozy mystery series. So I am so happy that we get more Winstons in the future. My last book is an audiobook. It is Hail Mary by Nicola Rendell. This is a sports romance and it is so much fun. It's hilarious and dirty. The hero is kind of over the top, but I didn't mind it. He is an NFL quarterback and she is the new physical therapist that his team hires. They don't know that when they first meet though. They first meet at a boxing gym where Mary, the heroine, knocks Jimmy out. It's just so funny and over the top. A really great romantic comedy. The audiobook was great to listen to. This is my second book from this author. My first book was So Good, which is a friends to lovers romance and one of my favorites. I love that book so much. I really enjoyed this one too. I've got a couple of her other books on my Kindle and my TBR, and hopefully I'll love them as much as I love this one and So Good. So that is my wrap up for October 2019, 25 books. Let me know what you guys read, if you have any new favorites from last month, anything you want me to read, let me know. I'll leave all the links to these books in the description below, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!